Welcome to Downtown Sports. My name is Downtown Stephen Brown, and in today's video, guys, it is free agent frenzy, and expect a couple of videos today. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, make sure to do so you're not missing a thing here. And it sounds like the first one of the day for the Leafs is going to be Petr Mrazek, and it's expected to be a 3-year deal around $3.8 million. This season, Mrazek was sidelined with some injuries here, but at the same time, in the limited amount of games that he did play, the results were very, very good. And it kind of looks like that Frederik Andersen is going the other way and joining the Carolina Hurricanes on a 2-year deal. And Leaf fans, we kind of understand what happened with Frederik Andersen, right? The Leafs played him a lot his first 3.5 years in Toronto, maybe a little bit too much, maybe burnt him out, had some injury troubles over the last year and a half or so, but it really was those medium danger shots that really ate Frederik Andersen up. The ones that it looked like he maybe should have or could have had, but, maybe the defense was a little bit out of positioning. Those ones that you would really, really like to have, those are the opportunities that really ate him up, and Petr Mrazek did a really good job of stopping those last season. If we're looking at these three goalies here over the last 3 seasons, anyway, the main comparison being between Andersen and Mrazek, if we're looking at the contextual stats here, which was available in that 1-year block for both guys through Andy and Rono there, but their save percentages over the last 3 seasons, all situation, both 9-11, 9-11, like we pointed out. The high danger shots against per 60 for both Andersen and Mrazek. Mrazek faced a little bit higher of a volume of high danger shots against the last 3 seasons and had a much better high danger save percentage. So he is going to save you some of those goals that maybe you wouldn't expect to stop, but did face a much lower medium danger shots against per 60, but again, had a better save percentage against those types of shots while having a drastic swing in goals saved above expectation. Now, the thing to remember with goals saved above expectation is that if you are a goalie playing on a team that allows their fair share of high-quality scoring opportunities, and you're making all those saves, you're going to have more opportunities to add to that stat category. In the same way, if you're a goalie that faces a lot of high-danger shots and you're not saving a lot of them, and you're letting in some weaker goals as well, it's really easy to rack up a negative number. But it is not the be-all, end-all. If you're looking at a really good goalie playing on a really good defensive team, they're not going to get the same number of reps to prove just how many goals they've saved above their expected measure. Now, if we're looking at numbers since 2019, 2020 in all situations here, and we're adding a couple of names to the mix here, because remember, it was rumored that the Maple Leafs were in on Darcy Kuemper for a while, and you kind of have to weigh the pros and cons with it. There's another name in Martin Jones on this list who we talked about in yesterday's video, and maybe he could still potentially be signing with the Leafs, but in like a 3rd or a 4th goalie role in like a 1-year league minimum deal. But anyway, that's not the point here. If you're looking at the Leafs' options between Mrazek and Kuemper between the 17-18 season and the 19-20 season, one of the best goalies in the entire NHL. When you're looking at the quality of chances that he faced, the save percentage that he had against those opportunities, and his goals saved above expectation, just beautiful. But Kuemper last season on a struggling Arizona Coyotes team, he's had a wide variety of injury history, and maybe it is kind of catching up with him. And the $4.5 million cap hit that he comes with, if the Coyotes are not willing to retain any salary there, because it's $5.5 million in real money that he's coming with, and I think if they're trading him and they're not retaining anything, you can probably get him for really cheap. But if they're retaining something, you're probably going to have to pay full price for that goalie. So if you're looking at the pros and cons between both of these guys, yeah, they do have a bit of an injury history between the two of them. But if you're looking at who's been better in the more recent past, it's Petr Mrazek. If we're looking at this armchair GM skeleton here with Petr Mrazek added to it, $4.758 million remaining here, and if you place a guy like Pierre Engvall on waivers to start the season, it allows you to still have a little bit of center depth, some depth on the penalty kill, and it's only going to cost you $125,000 against the cap to place him there, and if he gets claimed on waivers, he gets claimed. He's gone. But the point of doing that is that I think that the Leafs can do a little bit better than him. So if you're placing him on waivers, $5.8 million there to go out and get 2 more forwards. Now, it is rumored that they could maybe be interested in moving a guy like Alex Kerfoot, but I don't necessarily think that that's too likely. Another name that was thrown in there is Ilya Mikheyev as well, and he generates a ton of scoring chances, but his hands don't keep up with his feet. His shot's not necessarily the best, and if you don't think that those two things are going to improve, it's more than likely going to be much of the same from Ilya Mikheyev next season, and that's about the same thing. For $1.6 million, they can probably sign a guy who's better than him, or get someone who's just as good for less. Travis Thurman is another guy who could maybe be moved. I don't know, $1.5 million for what was their seventh defenseman last season, saw his average time on ice slashed by over 4 minutes from the year previous to last year. But I like the idea of bringing back as many parts of this D-core as the Maple Leafs possibly can, because it was the best that it's been in years. And yeah, you are losing a guy like Zach Bogosian, who just seems like doesn't want to sign in Canada because of COVID restrictions and stuff like that. And I understand that. That's his own personal choice. That has nothing to do with the Leafs or him not enjoying his time here. If you can maybe move on from a Travis Thurman and get another bigger bruising type defenseman to fill that hole, and maybe you have some room for Timothy Liljegren to play some games, because he is at that point in his career where playing 25 minutes a night for the Marlies, killing penalties, playing power play time, playing against the top players in that league probably doesn't do him any more good than what it's already done. And when he did get called up last season, he did look okay in the couple of games that he did play. He did kill penalties for the Toronto Maple Leafs when he was called up, and that's the idea, and I would not mind seeing Liljegren play with Rasmus Sandin on a pairing. Now, the Leafs definitely didn't get a deal with the Petr Mrazek contract here. That is market value, but to be able to compare that, I mean, I used Chris Driedger's $3 million deal as kind of like a placeholder in there when I was filling out my armchair GM on what it could potentially cost the Leafs to get a decent backup goalie. But the thing is, the problem with that is that Chris Driedger wasn't available to everyone else. He signed with Seattle in that exclusive window because he wanted to go there. So even though he was a UFA goalie, it's not necessarily the same. He wasn't available to every other team. And with this being more of a news type video or a shallow analysis kind of thing, we're going to have to wait a couple of days to really see how this Petr Mrazek contract stacks up against other comparables with deals that goalies are eventually going to sign. Now, Bob McKenzie's talked about Michael Bunting signing with the Toronto Maple Leafs a couple of times in a couple of tweets, and him listing it here with a bunch of other names that sound like it's just a done deal already like that. I'm going to include Michael Bunting in his own video because I think he deserves it, and there's a lot to talk about when it comes to that player, even though it probably is going to be a relatively small signing. That's going to be it for this video. Make sure to like the video, guys, and make sure to get subscribed, because whatever is coming today or in the coming days, we're going to break it down just the same or more in depth. I don't know. It depends on the information, depends on the player, depends what's going on with the situation, right? Petr Mrazek, I think, is a good first move. That was the priority. That's what Dubas said that he wanted to do. You wanted to prioritize finding another goalie to play with or behind Jack Campbell, depending on how you want to view it. So far, so good for the Toronto Maple Leafs.